One of the biggest emotional questions after Dutton Ranch episode 8 is simple. Where will Carter go from here? Throughout the series, Carter has struggled to find his place in the world. He has always been caught between the violent cowboy lifestyle that shaped him and the stable future Beth and Rip desperately want him to have. Episode 8 pushes that internal conflict further than ever, leaving fans wondering whether Carter will remain with the Dutton family or choose a completely different path. At the beginning of the episode, Carter is forced to face the consequences of his emotional breakdown from episode 7. After getting drunk and causing chaos at the ranch, he blames himself for adding even more stress to Beulah, who suffered a serious heart attack. Although Carter never intended to hurt anyone, his reckless actions make him realize that his anger and impulsive behavior continue to affect everyone around him. This overwhelming guilt becomes one of the biggest reasons he starts questioning whether he still belongs with Beth and Rip. Episode 8 also highlights Carter's growing loneliness. His relationship with Oriana has become increasingly complicated. The two clearly care about each other, but their relationship has also encouraged Carter to make several poor decisions throughout the season. Instead of giving him stability, his romance has become another source of emotional confusion. Carter begins to understand that love alone cannot solve the trauma he has carried since childhood. Beth and Rip respond to Carter's mistakes differently. Rip believes Carter needs discipline and accountability because becoming a real cowboy means accepting responsibility for every decision. Beth, however, sees something deeper. She understands that Carter is still carrying emotional scars from losing his parents and spending years without a real family. Rather than giving up on him, Beth continues to believe he deserves another chance. Their different parenting styles create one of the most emotional storylines in the episode. As the story unfolds, Carter appears to reach a turning point. Instead of running away from his problems as he might have done in the past, he begins accepting that he cannot keep blaming his past for every mistake he makes. That realization is perhaps the most important moment in his character development. For the first time, Carter seems willing to become the man Beth and Rip have always hoped he could be. However, episode 8 also leaves several clues that Carter may temporarily leave the ranch. Throughout the episode, he repeatedly talks about feeling like a burden and questions whether everyone around him would be better off without him. These conversations strongly suggest he may decide to leave on his own, believing that distancing himself from Beth and Rip is the only way to stop hurting the people he loves. The episode intentionally leaves this possibility open as one of its biggest cliffhangers. Another possibility is that Carter could try to prove himself independently before returning. Rip has always taught him that respect is earned through hard work rather than words. If Carter leaves, it may not be because he no longer considers Beth and Rip his family. Instead, he may feel the need to build his own identity before he can truly stand beside them as an equal rather than as someone constantly needing to be rescued. The events surrounding Beulah's family also influence Carter's future. Watching Rob Will's betrayal and Joaquin's struggle for control of the 10-petal ranch shows Carter exactly what happens when families allow resentment and pride to replace loyalty. These conflicts serve as a warning. Carter now understands that he has something incredibly valuable with Beth and Rip, a family that refuses to abandon him despite his mistakes. Losing that would be far worse than facing any punishment. There's also a symbolic element to Carter's journey. Since his introduction in Yellowstone, he has mirrored Rip Wheeler's younger years. Both boys experienced neglect, violence, and loss before finding a home on a ranch. Rip eventually became one of the strongest and most loyal men in the Dutton family, but only after years of hardship. Carter appears to be following the same path, though his journey may be less about becoming another Rip and more about becoming the best version of himself. Looking ahead to the Season 1 finale, the show seems to be setting up a major emotional decision. Carter will likely have to choose between running from his guilt or embracing the family that has stood by him through every mistake. While Episode 8 hints that he may leave temporarily, it also emphasizes that Beth and Rip have never stopped seeing him as their son. That emotional bond remains the strongest argument for why Carter's future still belongs with the Duttons. Ultimately, Episode 8 is less about Carter physically leaving the ranch and more about whether he can finally leave behind the fear, anger, and insecurity that have controlled his life for so long. His greatest battle is no longer against another person, it is against himself. Whether he spends time away from the ranch or stays by Beth and Rip's side, his future now depends on accepting responsibility while believing that he deserves the family he has found. With only one episode remaining this season, Carter's next decision could define not only his own future, but also the future of the entire Dutton family. If he chooses loyalty over fear, he may finally become the man Rip always believed he could be. If he walks away, however, the finale could become the beginning of an entirely new chapter in Carter's life, and perhaps the biggest storyline heading into season 2.